Wonderful group. So I'm Jeannie Hickey. I was diagnosed in 1965, so just a few years ago. I went on a pump in 1988 and a sensor probably about 10 years ago. I've never worn an Omnipod. I've worn the Animas just because I felt like I ought to. I've worn a Tandem, but I always came back to my Medtronic. I looped for almost a year, but I just couldn't handle the technical challenges of lost connection. So I'm back on my 670 and pleased enough. I went to nursing school and started out in intensive care and then in emergency. And from emergency, I completed my diabetes educator certificate, and I've done that since 1992, which I love. I love being involved. I love being a busybody and connecting people and sharing ideas. But it's from my experience that has played a role in my interest in sick days and in the people that I talk to. So is there anything particular that all of you are wanting to cover, wanting me to cover or wanting to discuss as a group? Just go ahead, and you pretty much can leave yourselves unmuted if you want to just pipe up and say if there's anything you want particularly. Nikki?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in the mini dosing glucagon.
Great.
I also been diabetic for 16 years and I have no sick day plan and never have.
Okay.
So every sick day is a bad one. So I'd love to hear anything about that, but I've just started doing the mini dosing and it's exciting. So
it's great. Yeah. Eric, anything from you? I know this is all new for you.
I guess, yeah, like the protocol, I've never been, well, knock on wood, I haven't been sick since I've been diabetic, because I've only been diabetic for about 3 months. But I've heard that it's a whirlwind, and you gotta do some extra special stuff. So I actually looked in my cabinet, and I did have the glucagon or whatever we were talking about the other night, but it's the nose one, so I might need to get
fine.
Yeah, so I have that. I just picked up my it's a ketone monitor. So I got that. They didn't give me strips, of course, so I have to wait about a week or two to get those because they have to special order them. But I guess what I'm looking forward to is just learning, honestly, because like I am not prepared at all if I were to catch a cold or the flu, or hopefully not the coronavirus, but
yeah.
I would like to have a plan, and when did I be able to relay on to my folks and to my girlfriend and whatnot, just so they know the plan as well. So
good. Rachel, anything? You've been with DYF forever, and your family was so involved. You probably have a good sick day plan.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking for a refresher on this stuff because just in general, because I feel like I don't really have like anything plan wise like written down or anything. And I know I live alone. It's just me in my studio apartment. So, and because of all the like quarantine stuff, you know, if I got sick, it's harder to get someone to, you know, come over and feed me soup. So make sure I have stuff planned just in case.
We're going to do that. Marcia, is there anything that you particularly wanted to pick up this evening?
Well, I'm curious on the, like he's called the inhaler one, the new glucagon thing. Okay. I always had the other one, but never could use it because if it's just for me, why would I use it? And it expires every year, so I stopped buying it. But and I'm also curious on that new thing that they told me today that you could do with the tandem pump to make you not, when you're sick, to do it on sleep mode and do it on activity mode when you're sick, and I didn't understand that at all. So, so anything else you say, I always learn from, so, you know.
All right. Thanks. Lonnie, anything from you?
I just want to learn about the mini-glucagon. I'm thinking I'm understanding that it's for when you have that low that's just not rising, just staying low. So rather than eating the 4 pounds of
Yeah.
jelly beans, I want to have a better, quicker way to deal with those lows.
Great. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Melissa is going to be taking notes kind of so that you can catch up, but also at the very end, she has the UCSF type 1 diabetes sick day plan link. It's a great thing to print out. I think it's 3 or 4 pages, but it's just another place that you can find a resource. Another quick source that I just thought of is the Pink Panther book, Understanding Diabetes by Peter Chase. It's a book that kids' families are given when they're diagnosed. It's written very simply, but yet it's not insultingly simple. I have med students read it to understand what we all know or what Eric is learning, but you can read it free online. So if you go to Peter Chase, Understanding Diabetes, you can go through the University of Denver and read the book, and you can pick the chapters. You probably won't need to read the chapter on babysitters or hormones, but those kinds of different chapters you can take a look at. So it's just another resource. Okay, so sick days. Basic sick days is we just want to avoid them. And just like they're telling us all now, it's masks, it's washing, it's avoiding people who are sick, it's not touching your face. And that covers corona, it covers flu, it covers colds. Now the sickness that doesn't cover is food poisoning. But that you pretty much are just going to have to get through. But the rest of this stuff that we're going to go over will help you get through that. Okay. So what I've always done when I've taught this is I've had a sick day box, which I bring with all of my little props. And here, Melissa has kept track with it. What are some of the things you want in the sick day box that we're going to want to remember? You're going to want to have a notebook because you're going to need to keep track of what were your symptoms, what day did they start, what's your temperature, and what are your blood sugars, and what insulin dose did you take? Because I can forget how long ago I took that last insulin dose. Now I know that you're going to say, oh, I'm on a pump. And we're going to come back to that because a pump is a piece of technology that doesn't always work. I mean, Lonnie's got it down. She gives injections. She knows she got that insulin. Our pumps, my blood sugar was up to like 250 the other day. I had no business being there. I needed to change my site. As soon as I changed it, my number, and not feeling thoughtful enough, I may not have realized that it was between the almost day 3. I could have kept using my pump. So thinking to always fall back on a syringe and insulin. We know it works. Okay, so one of my key points, and I'm going to be repeating things, one of my key points is the fact that take insulin, sip fluids, check your blood sugar. All right. In that sick day box, I always encourage people to keep a couple of syringes, keep a vial of test strips, because have you ever run out of test strips? But if you're ill and you're not going to go to the pharmacy to pick them up, you don't have backup. But if you had a backup vial in your box, you could always go get it and use it. Even if they've expired, they're still going to be close enough. Okay. You're going to want to check your blood sugar at least every 4 hours because our blood sugars change. Now, Eric, you mentioned that you're getting a ketone meter. Sorry about my clock. So a ketone meter is really nice. You've got the meter, you've got the strips. At camp, we've used strips even after they've expired because they still are really hardy. Now, you can also pea sticks. These will last for 6 months once they're open, but this was just $12.
So do those, which meter do you have?
I've got the Precision.
Yeah, that's the one they gave me, but they said they didn't have, which are those that you have? I'm sorry.
Approximately, these are $10 a piece. I've got 3 of them.
What about the P ones?
The P ones, so these 50 strips were $12.
And
Now
that-
I'm Kaiser, and I spent like $6 or $7 a couple of years ago when I bought a box.
What are those called again?
These are ketone test strips that you pee on.
Okay.
Eric, you can get them on Amazon as well. You can get a buy of just 1 bottle of them for about $6. So it's
Okay.
cheaper to go that route sometimes than pharmacy.
Yeah, great.
My sugar was at like 400 yesterday for like an hour or two, and then it was in like the 300s for like 5 hours. So then my doctor's like, check your ketones. I was like, I don't have any strips. They didn't give me any, so I'll have to go look for those.
Yeah, I just was at CVS because I looked the other day for my box and I couldn't find it. So I looked again today and I said, CVS, here I come. Because they're available anywhere and they work. Now, the nice thing about blood is that it tells you sooner, but the pee sticks will tell you that you're positive. If you're nauseous, if you vomit, then, and your blood sugars are over 250, you can pretty much guarantee that you're spilling ketones. That nausea, do you guys remember when you were diagnosed? The nausea?
Yeah, I've been having that recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd be really concerned about what your blood sugars are running. Do you have enough insulin on board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So when we're sick, there are so many stress hormones that are floating through our body that they naturally raise our blood sugars. And once our blood sugar goes past like 250, we become insulin resistant. So if usually, and I'm just telling my own story, if 1 unit will drop me like 40 points, as my blood sugar goes up, it no longer covers 40 points. It may cover only 35 points. So you can see that as the blood sugar goes up, you will need more insulin. And those stress hormones are constantly going to be with you while you're sick. So checking your blood sugar at least every 4 hours, giving that insulin to bring you back down is very important. If you're sick but okay, I would set an alarm during the night to even check sugars and give a little bit more insulin. Reviewing with a partner to back you up. All right, so yeah, okay. One of the other important things is to sip fluids. If you're running a fever, you're going to be burning off more fluids. So another thing that should be in your sick day box is a thermometer, some Tylenol or Motrin or something for bringing a temperature down. The Dexcoms, they say you shouldn't take Tylenol for. So if you have some ibuprofen, some Motrin, that'll help. It also can make you feel less achy and miserable. So that's a good thing to have. Now, fluids, broth is always a good thing. You know, just simply sipping on broth. Every hour, you should be taking a couple of sips. But you go, oh no, I'm nauseous. Notice that Melissa wrote down Zofran. I like your comment, Melissa. It's great. Rachel, have you ever used Zofran?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Zofran is something, that prescription that you get from your doctor. I know Dr. Mary always used to have that paste of Phenergan that she would put on people's arms to help absorb something for the nausea. But Zofran, it's a little pill. You can get it that it dissolves in your mouth, so you don't have to try and swallow anything. Because if you're upchucking, you're not going to be keeping in fluids. You're going to be getting dehydrated. High blood sugars also make our kidneys throw out more fluid, so we're peeing more. Do you remember that, Eric, before you started insulin, that you were peeing more? I think Eric went somewhere. But that's just one of the ways that the body tries to get rid of extra fluid, by getting rid of that high sugar in our urine. So we're going to be trying to replace that with drinking. If your blood sugar is above like 150, you're going to want to do some sugar-free liquids, like whether it's Crystal Light or a soda. Remember that ginger is often calming to people's stomachs. But if your blood sugar is under 150, you just might want to have a real 7-Up with a little bit of sugar. And the nice thing about taking in extra carbohydrates is that you're going to be covering that with insulin, because the things that you need are insulin, extra fluids, and checking your blood sugar. Those are the 3 things that you want to be doing. Putting in some simple carbohydrates like simple crackers, just plain old saltines. They're boring, but they're often, your tummy is able to handle them. So some carbohydrates. Don't grab your happy bag of chips, because your tummy may not like it. So hopefully you're going to have a little notebook and a pen. Keep track of your sugars, the amount of insulin you're taking, and hopefully you also will have a card that says, what's your medical record number? What's your doctor's number? What is your insulin plan? Because if somebody is your backup, I know, I'm guilty of this. I totally do all my own care. My husband doesn't know my carb ratio. He doesn't know how to do a site change. He's not going to be able to change my sensor. So what if I was really sick? My sensor's expired. I can't use it, but my husband does know how to do a finger stick. So there's where getting back to basics, injection with a syringe, he can do that. It's very simple, but he really wouldn't know how much to draw up. But if I had my insulin plan in a card, I'm using a bag today, with my stuff, I've got my soda, I've got my broth. I always know where it is so that I can use it. And that way, if something happens, my backup, whether it's your parents, your girlfriend, your roommate, somebody, if you just say, hey, this is my sick day plan. Lonnie, hopefully you've got phone numbers. I will drive over to your house and be your backup. Because when we're sick, sometimes we can't help ourselves. And I'll tell you my story on myself. I had my wisdom teeth pulled. My parents thought I had my coworkers. I was working in intensive care then. My coworkers thought that I was staying with my parents. Well, the pain medication made me nauseous. I was throwing up. It went very quickly. And I realized that I hadn't given insulin in a while. This was the days before a pump. I hadn't given insulin in a while. I hadn't checked my sugar because that was in the days before meters. So I would have had to pee on a stick. So I was very behind. I called a friend down in the emergency room and I said, I'm so nauseous, you know, from the pain medication. Could you, on your way home, could you drop off some Compazine? This was in the days when we just had medicine you could pick up in the ER. So she came over and looked at me and said, you're a mess. And hi, Caroline. And she said,
sorry to interrupt. I'm just meeting.
That's okay. I'm glad you're here. We're going over sick days, and I would be happy to backtrack and start at the beginning with you afterwards.
Yeah, please don't worry.
All right.
Thank you.
So she left very unhappily, and then hours later I realized I needed somebody to give me some insulin. So I called intensive care. I called my friends and I said, can I have John's phone number? I knew he'd be driving to work in a couple hours and I wanted him to give me a shot. Well, I never made it off the phone because they realized she had her wisdom teeth pulled. She's got type 1 diabetes. So they sent the ambulance. How embarrassing that I got taken to my own hospital because I was in DKA. I could not take care of myself. So what we're looking for now that we have meters that we can check our blood sugars, now that I just know that much more about sick day rules, I could have started earlier. And that's one of the main things I want you to take away is to be sure to give insulin. Be even a little on the aggressive side about giving insulin to keep your sugars down. Once you're above 150, start correcting. And if you ever, for even an unknown reason, like a broken ankle or whatever reason, you have to go to the ER, take your stuff with you. Take your own meter. If you don't have a sensor on, or even if you do have a sensor, take your meter. Take some insulin and a syringe, even if you've got a pump. If you're, for some reason, your pump's not working, or if they take it off because they don't know what it is, or you were in an accident and it got pulled out, you're going to need insulin. If you ask the ER to help you, it's going to be very delayed. They need to do blood work first. They need to get an order from the doctor. I know what I need. One lady in one of my support groups was saying that they came at her with 10 units of regular insulin. She goes, no, you'll kill me, because she's sensitive. So that would have dropped her blood sugar easily 500 points, and she was only like 300. So keep your diabetes in charge of it as much as you can. And there again, that's where you want your backup friend. Somebody to be your partner. It's tough right now because nobody can be in there with you. But as much as you can, be that obnoxious person that says, oh, sorry, I already gave 1.5 units to bring my blood sugar down. You don't need to touch it. Oh, I'm sorry, I already had a couple of glucose tablets because I'm running low. Try to be on top of it. All right, so where am I?
You're talking about, so just like your insulin plan, important medical issues on the card with important information.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, that insulin card, you know, if you have any allergies, you know, you might be at a hospital that doesn't know you or doesn't have access. So you've got your doctor's phone number, you've got any allergies, just something to back you up in case somebody stops by and says, boy, you're a mess, we need to go in. All right. Okay, so I've gone really quick over anything. What doesn't make sense? What do you want to review? And then we'll jump into glucagon.
Say that what that patch was. You said in the olden days they had some kind of patch that.
Oh, it was a Phenergan paste.
Do they still have that? Because I don't want to put stuff in the body. You still have that?
You would have to have a prescription and a compounding pharmacy.
Okay, then can you put it in the chat or somewhere how to spell that, or send it to me in an email later? Because I'm just curious if I need something. I don't want things that go in the body.
You wouldn't want any Zofran under your tongue?
I don't know about that because somebody told me that once, and then someone said I might be allergic because the preservatives in it. But I find like things that go in the patch don't.
Okay, well, so again, Zofran is I wouldn't imagine that Zofran has the same preservatives that insulin have, but check it out. Zofran is really nice. I have never known anyone to not get along with it, but.
I'll ask about that one, but I wanted to know in case there was that touch thing, what it was called.
Okay, and then there's also Phenergan suppositories that you can easily give yourself. It's just absorbed. So, and I can't imagine that they would have preservatives that would bother a gut, but then I don't know. Great comment.
So,
Thanks. I never heard of you, and I've been around for a long time.
Okay. Yes, Eric.
so when you're sick, what's the optimum blood sugar? Is 150? Like
Pretty much. I mean, if you can maintain somewhere, within 50 points of 150, you're doing pretty good.
you don't want to get too low. But you
No, you don't. You don't. Because if your tummy's a little,
yeah.
then you're going to try and bring it up. But then that gets us to the glucagon, the Minidose Glucagon. Great lead in, Eric. Thanks for following up. Okay. Up at camp, we use Minidose Glucagon a lot. Of course, this was before the nasal or the pens, and you can see that the two other types of glucagons are listed with the names of what they are. The Boschini and the Gvoke is a pen. Now, the pen sounds like it's a great idea, but it comes only in two sizes. You can get a 0.5 milligram, or you can get the adult, which is a whole milligram. This box is a whole milligram. The darn it with this is that it's a two-step, or more than 2 steps. You take a vial of powder. You take the syringe, put the liquid into the vial, mix it up. Technically, I use this syringe to draw up the whole thing, stick it pretty much anywhere, and give it. That's a big dose of glucagon. A lot of people are not pleased with the full dose of glucagon just because it really raises blood sugars higher than we want. So what we do at camp is we mix it up. We mix up the vial. We use an insulin syringe and draw up, technically, 1 unit per year of life. Now, I'd be using almost 3/4 of this. Personally, I have used 5 to 10 units of Minidose Glucagon for myself, and it's worked very well. I was out hiking, and I used, it ended up being a more vigorous hike. I'd used a granola bar, and I thought, surely 18 grams is going to keep me. I just kept dropping. So I had some glucagon with me. I mixed it up. I drew up 10 units because I thought, I want 10. Gave it to myself. Within 5 minutes, I felt safe. You guys, after you've had a low, and you know that kind of a brain fog that lasts for 15 or 20 minutes, glucagon seems to get you up and clear quicker. So that's nice. If your tummy is full, you just had a big dinner, but let's say you're full of pizza, it's going to raise your blood sugar later, but you gave all your insulin ahead. Oh, crime in Italy. Now you're supposed to eat more carbohydrates to help take care of that low. And if you can't think about eating anything more, that mini dose of glucagon just may make you feel a lot more comfortable. With the full doses of glucagon, the Basquimi, the inhaled, the Gvoke pen, your blood sugar is easily going to get to 200 to 300. Now you got to take some more insulin and bring it back down. You're thinking, dear Gussie, I feel like I have more control with this and I've had good success. Now, my thought for the Gvoke, which is the pen, I just might ask for a prescription of the PD dose to have that around, because it's like an EpiPen. If you guys have taken first aid, the EpiPen, you put it in, it's very easy, it gets in. With this, you've got the steps, you've got to take this out, you've got to take the needle cover off, you've got to mix it back up. A lot of people in studies, all they do is shoot this. They never mixed it with the powder. So if you're thinking that people can just pick it up and do it, not real likely. With the Gvoke, or with the Basquimi, excuse me, there were no mistakes. People could do it with just looking at it and knowing what it was. Stick it up your nose and squish. So it's something that for those of you who like to be out and about and want something with you, that Basquimi could just be the perfect thing for people to do.
Eric, I wanted to go back to, like, so I started out on pens. Yes, you waste a lot of them, right? But that Frio bag, which we talked about the other night, and again, like, I used to not carry a purse, got diabetes and had to carry a purse now, right? You got to carry your fruit snacks and whatever else. But that Frio bag, if you look on Amazon, I think they're like $14. I have it in the kitchen, but it's a little tiny bag that you soak in the water and then you stick it in another bag. If you put that in, like if you had loose fitting pants and put it in your pocket, it's not drenched wet that it would get your clothing wet necessarily, but that could be something that could extend your insulin if you're concerned about just that 30 days. So I think that's something to think about too. So it's FRIO, and that I love them. So
Yeah, I was told about that. Now, can you put your insulin in the refrigerator after you use it? Because I was told once you take it out the refrigerator and use it, it can't go back in. Like you have to, just let it ride out.
you don't want to have one out of the fridge for like 7 days and then it's not like putting it back in the fridge is going to prolong those 7 days, but it will give you more time if you keep it cooler.
Put it in the fridge every night or after dinner.
I want to create a backstop where I can have a lot, a storage.
Oh yeah.
I know that once my condition progresses, I'm going to need a lot more insulin, and once I get 2 years older, I'm probably going to be off my mom's insurance. So the more that I can, stock up, the better it'd be for me. So I'm
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And don't think that you're going to use a lot more insulin. I have not changed dosages from 14 years ago. Like my dosage is pretty much the same. I've changed a little bit more because I eat a lot more cookies now, but like that's don't let that stress out that you feel like you have to ration it now, because I mean you're an athlete, you're physically active, it might have a different impact. You might end up using a lot less than you anticipate.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of in a honeymoon phase though. So
I think that when you really get to extremes, like if it's sitting, at the coldest part of the fridge and it's begun to crystallize or something like that, or if it's sitting in a car, that's 100 degrees for a couple of days, I think that insulin you toss, and even then, I mean, usually you can see it becomes cloudy, or you do a shot and it doesn't do anything. I mean, it's not, that's usually how you know. But
I was off camping once and went into the refrigerator in the morning to give some insulin, and I realized that the milk had crystals. And I thought, oh dear, the RV refrigerator got super cold. And while I mentioned that, be concerned about your hotel refrigerators. People like their sodas icy cold. There was a pediatric conference in Florida, and a lot of families were in the conference hotel, and all of their refrigerators were set really, really cold. And those families who put their insulin in the fridge were scrambling to get new prescriptions over the weekend. So your best bet is either going back to the Frio or just a little baggie and fill your ice bucket and drop your insulin in the ice bucket. It's safer, you know that the temperature is safe. You won't freeze your insulin. A lot of people have cooked their insulin. It's been in the car, but it's not going to be completely unusable. It's going to still be effective, but not as. So just something to think about. You know, don't throw it away if that's all you've got.
Is that the point of no insulin? I guess like some insulin that might not be as effective is better than none.
Yeah, I found that before we were able to get down the mountain to a pharmacy to buy some more insulin, and I'm going to come back to that, I just needed like 3 times as much. But it worked. And just something to remember is that you can always buy regular insulin. That's the old-fashioned insulin that I was started on. You can always buy it without a prescription from Walmart for $25. So,
Hey, Jeannie, I have a question about, I want to go back to glucagon really quick because I don't want us to run out of time on this, but I just had a really quick question that came to me. So in the camp environment, when we did mini doses of glucagon, or when we had to do those emergency glucagon injections, the biggest thing, and I don't know too much about it, I don't know if it happens with everybody, some people rebound after those injections.
yes. Okay, rebound blood sugar?
Yeah, so like the way that it's been used when it's been in my presence is that when we have used the glucagon, we immediately give them something to eat after the injection because we anticipate that they're going to crash at some point. Can you give clarification on that, or like what we should do if we do have to take an emergency glucagon shot?
Okay, was that a full dose?
I'm pretty sure the first one was a full dose. I think mini-gluc we also just did because we mini-gluced him because he's crashing. So
yeah. We at Bearskin, we would do a mini dose and 15 grams. Technically, they would get the 15 grams when the counselor came down to med staff on both sides of the camp, had a little box of pre-drawn, you know, average dose for teens. What's their average age? 15. Okay, we had 15 units drawn up in syringes in a little box, and we would just hand them out, write their name, their blood sugar, their dose, their deck, and we'd follow up in the morning, see how they did. We found that with the mini dose and the 15 grams, they were around 100 to 120 in the morning.
with the 15 grams is what
With
you're saying.
the 15
Okay.
grams. The mini dose glucagon worked right away. The 15 grams took them several more hours, and then they seemed to be okay. You know, there were kids who still woke up in the 60s or 70s, but they weren't any lower and were safe. A high might be 160 or 170, but not very often. Usually they were right in target. But yes, that full dose of glucagon, easily 200, 300, even 400 blood sugars. So that's why at Bearskin we started to get away from it. And we've used it for golly Moses, Rachel, how many years? Caroline, can you remember how many years it's been that we've been doing mini dose? Caroline's not there.
I don't remember. I know you started at some point, like after I was already a camper. So
yeah,
But,
it just works really well. And the nice thing is that you give it to yourself when you're realizing that you're not in trouble, but you're realizing that, whoa, I want something that'll work, and I don't want to go up too high. And you can always repeat it.
Can I ask?
Now, hold that thought. Keep thinking back to the full dose of glucagon. One of the side effects is nausea. So a lot of kids, if they were given a full dose, would be nauseous, would be puking. And so if technically, if someone is unconscious and you're giving them a full dose of glucagon, you're supposed to roll them onto their side so when they puke, they won't aspirate.
I did notice that there seems to be a lifting of that, you described it as the fog, but a lifting of the symptoms of a low so quickly and so nicely. And I thought I was crazy, but to hear you say it makes me think that that is happening. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice is that fairly consistently, about 30 minutes after taking a mini glucagon dose, and those are sometimes 5 units, they could even be 3 units depending on how, but let's say 5 to 12 units is about my average. I notice a nice rise about 30 to 40 points, somewhere in there, and then oftentimes I plummet on the other end, on the other side, and that's sometimes 30 minutes in, and that's a little bit alarming because I just don't know, is that something that's typical, or is that because maybe I have too much insulin on board, or?
That's what I would suspect, Nikki, because, the only thing that's going to lower our blood sugar is insulin.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
and that's the reason why at camp we're just very careful with 15 grams of carbohydrate, and then the mini dose gets given. And as soon as their blood sugar is 100, everybody can go back to bed, which is why the counselors really liked it, because the kids came up and everybody could get back to bed sooner.
Right. Okay.
But you're right. And so, like those peanut butter crackers, there's a little protein to delay the action of the carbohydrate.
Okay.
Good ideas, milk, protein and carbohydrate.
Okay.
High fat ice cream.
Well, don't. So if I were to take a 15 unit injection versus a 5 unit, could I expect that to last longer, or will it just send me up higher, or is it not that predictable?
I would say that it's not predictable.
Okay.
Jeannie, how can I get Medicare to allow me to get the PD one? Because the only one they'll say is that they will allow is the regular one, or that I just recently got them to say yes to the inhaling at all. But how can I get them to get the PD one? I mean, can I say I'm my second childhood, or?
I do not know.
So how do you get it? Because you must be on Medicare if you've been since '66.
I have Kaiser. I have Kaiser Medicare. And I just use this.
Wait, use what? You said this, but I can't see too well. So what was it?
My glucagon in the kit. Okay. So are we supposed to be done at 6? Well,
Yeah, so we have about an hour, but if you guys want to continue talking, I know sometimes the conversation goes different ways.